I have three themes that I've narrowed to one, but one I want to point out, especially to the group here, this book is a treasure. There is so much in here, and so much of our practice questions can be answered by looking deeply in it. So one of the things I wanted to talk about today is there's this verse in the 37 Practices of Bodhisattvas that we recite once a week here. I'm not finding it right this minute, but the verse goes, in brief, whatever you are doing, ask yourself, what's the state of my mind? With constant mindfulness and mental alertness, accomplish others' good. So I've recently had conversations with two different people on the topic of applying antidotes. For one person who's practiced for a long time, she was saying that for her, applying antidotes always kind of boils down to suppressing the affliction. And then for the other person I was talking about, it was generally like, I'm aware of antidotes, but I've never really known how to apply them. So I wanted to talk about that today, because I think that's not an uncommon situation. When I first personally heard the word antidote in association with the afflictions, then I associated it with the only context in which I had ever used the word before, as in snakebite. Right? I don't know what else you use the word antidote for. You antidote a snakebite. What's the antidote? Yeah. Well, I grew up in the South. We have a lot of pretty heavy-duty killers down there. So a little kid wanders into a creek, you'd be dead pretty quick. We antidote a snake bite. So I had the same idea. When a snake bites, you want to, in fact, I learned something today, you don't cut a little hole and suck the poison out, which is what, what we were taught. You don't do that anymore. You just try to keep the limb immobile as possible, and you go straight to the hospital. And then they will apply the venom. But, you're not spending every day thinking about antidote snake bite, antidote snake bite, antidote snake bite. You just wait till you get bit, and then you deal with it. So in the same way, I thought, okay, the antidote is anger is love. You wait till you're angry, and then you think about love. How many people have tried that? For how many people has it worked? It doesn't. It totally doesn't. So, in the same way, like when you feel craving or you feel this a sense of great attachment, people are ready to say, oh, yeah, think about impermanence. Really? Does that work for you? Here is this beautiful relationship that you've spent years cultivating. It's now in shatters on the floor. And I think, oh, impermanence. No big deal. No, we don't, because we're applying antidotes as though we were dealing with a snake bite. And that's not the right way to do it. It's not. Venerable Chodron gave a beautiful motivation last night that I want to quote from, because I was thinking about doing this BBC anyway. She says, when we look at the afflictions and we try to abandon them, we shouldn't do it simply by telling ourselves, I shouldn't think that way, or I shouldn't feel that way. I mean, the shoulds don't work. Rather, we should look at the thoughts, look at the story we're making, and analyze it to see if it is reasonable or not. If we only tell ourselves, I shouldn't be angry, we might wind up suppressing it, like my friend. Whereas, if we look at all the reasons we're giving ourselves of why our anger is good, why our anger is valid, why our anger is necessary, we may actually discover that the whole story is a bunch of hogwash. Upon seeing how nonsensical this is, then we can just very easily drop the anger. Now, when she got to the very easily part, I thought, okay. But actually, it's completely true. When we think about working with the antidotes to the afflictions, not like a snake bite, but like building up our immune system. It's a whole different thing. I mean, I don't know if immunization against the afflictions actually works in any kind of teaching context, but it's more that kind of idea. So that it starts with this verse. In brief, whatever you are doing, ask yourself, what's the state of my mind? If we don't know what's the state of my mind, then, if we wait until we're screaming at someone to suddenly notice that we're angry, it's a little bit late to be thinking about love. We have to be checking ourselves early, paying attention. What is the state of my mind? Really asking the question. It's so well said. What is the state of my mind? And this too is a habit. And I will also say, in my experience, it's not that easy to develop. When I first did the Vajrasattva retreat, now many, many years ago, I had this conscious thought. I often think of this, because we had, in my view, near perfect retreat conditions. Not everyone agrees with that, but the little room I was in, we kept silence perfectly, really, really well. So it was very, very silent, very, very little distraction, no outside anything, the food, something else, but and I was really concentrated on that retreat. Really concentrated on that retreat. But then, once I walked out of the session, my mind was like, and after a while I thought, I know I'm supposed to be thinking about this all the time, but I can't bear it. 6 sessions a day, I'm doing it really well. Forget it. I'm just going to let my mind go wild. And it kind of did. So, but I just remember so clearly trying to keep that same kind of grip on my mind in between sessions. At that time, I couldn't. Well, today I still can't, but I'm better. But learn, so slowly over time, we spend time on the cushion, we develop our concentration, we begin to be able to take it out in the break time, which is so important. And then simply this mnemonic that we have here in these verses, what's the state of my mind? It starts right there. Ask the question. Then we sit down with our list of antidotes, our list of the afflictions, we look at the definition of the afflictions, we learn them. Oh, I seem to be what? I seem to be exaggerating the good qualities of that thing, person, whatever, and craving and grasping for it. Oh, it matches the definition of attachment. I must be having attachment. What are the antidotes to attachment? What are the antidotes to attachment? Impermanence. What does that mean? It's not going to last forever. How does that work? Why should this stop me from wanting it? It's not going to last forever. I better eat it now. Right? Right. That's the extent of it. That's as far as we get. Right. So we have to think about, what does that mean? Why is meditating on impermanence the antidote to the attachment?
So we only have so much time, and if I run after these fleeting pleasures, then that's what I use my time for, and then I drop dead, and it's not so wonderful. So I remember that this is just fleeting, and it's not going to help me at death time, and so then that wakes me up some.
Yeah, that's one way of thinking about it. That is a mind that's actually thought about it. What does this mean? And as Venerable says, then, if you think about that with that sort of logic, then we see it's the affliction easily is dropped. Or, if you think about all impermanent things are necessarily decaying moment by moment, well, then the person that you care about the most dies. It's still painful for most of us, but we're prepared. We know that every conditioned thing is in the process of decaying all the time. Then our immune system is built up so that we're not devastated by the loss, right? So we begin to understand in a different kind of way how to apply these antidotes. We can't go at it like snakebite. It doesn't work. Rejoicing in someone's good qualities when your jealousy arises. Oh, please. But when we've thought about it, what is the cost of jealousy? Why? How does it harm us? How does it harm others? How does it actually feel when it's arising in my mind? What's the state of my mind? Oh. Then, when we look at the story that we've told ourselves, we can easily turn the mind and think, no, I don't want to have this kind of hatred for somebody who's got something good going. I want them to be happy. Let's rejoice in their good qualities. Let's rejoice in their good fortune. So that's my message to my friends who are asking how to work with the antidotes. That's just the beginning. But really the beginning is, what's the state of my mind? With constant mindfulness and mental alertness, and the next step is to accomplish others' good. The answer to that is also in this book, and I fully intend to do that as a part of this BBC, but it's already long enough, so I won't. But I want to turn your attention to the, just to the page. I think it's page 70, Prayer for a Meaningful Life. If that's what we're putting in our mind instead of our nitpicking, then we will be accomplishing others' good as we're paying attention to what's the state of my mind.